Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Wrestling Doesn't Make Sense, the best wrestling podcast in the world. I assume. I haven't checked, but I'm pretty sure we're the best. Where me and John talk about professional wrestling and how little sense it makes. Sometimes it doesn't make any sense at all. It's a reoccurring theme, which is good because it gives us stuff to talk about. On Sunday, in the midst of a global epidemic, the WWE decided to continue their plans and put on a Money in the Bank pay-per-view. But because of the epidemic, they had to make a couple of creative changes, shall we say. And they decided to hold the Money in the Bank matches, the men's match and the women's match, at the same time inside the WWE corporate building.
Mm-hmm.
They had to raise to the roof to where there's a ring on the roof for some reason, and then they had to get the Money in the Bank briefcases that way. So whenever I heard that, I immediately knew that this was going to be the perfect thing we could talk about in our show. I had a sneaky suspicion that it wasn't going to make any sense. And, I hate to say that I was totally correct on that, but, I feel like I was. You watched the whole show, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll get to the main event in a little bit. And trust me, we will definitely get to the main event. The rest of the show, what did you think of the rest of the show?
It's fairly decent for the most part. I thought there's only really, well, it's actually, I say that it's a bit of a mixed bag, because there was the SmackDown Tag Team Championship match, which was like pretty exciting match. Like, it was just, balls to the wall action really between four teams who were just going out there to put on the best match that they could put on, which was awesome. Yeah, could do with a bit more of that really. Mm-hmm. But then, like, things quickly went downhill with the
what a surprise.
There's like the whole weird thing with the R-Truth MVP match, which why is MVP getting booked on anything right now, like over other members of the roster who are under full-time contract with WWE and have more to offer at this stage of the game.
You say that, but MVP had that sweet Black Panther gear.
Yeah, but I've seen it before, so it's kind of lost its newness. But still, like, I guess the only reason for doing that was to put Lashley over by having him come out and take over the match instead, which seems to be teasing for Lashley to, join MVP's weird little group he's got going on at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, once, to be honest with you, I wasn't too bummed at the idea of seeing MVP versus R-Truth. I'm like, you know what, I'll watch that. I think it'll be an alright match.
Mm-hmm.
I understand why they did the Lashley thing, because, Lashley's a guy that needs to be spotlighted more, I think, highlighted more.
Yeah.
And this just seemed like a very good way to do it. They'll bait and switch, as it were. So it seemed like a decent way to do it. And R-Truth's a good guy for him to fight, because R-Truth, God bless him, I love R-Truth. I do. Mm-hmm. He's just funny. And it's very hard for them to do, like, good comedy, because they always try to do comedy, and a lot of the time it sucks. But
yeah,
R-Truth is just like, he's good, man. He's good at the funnies. So I was okay with that. That one I was okay with. And it wasn't like a long match either. So you're like, all right, I can deal with this. I thought that Drew McIntyre versus Seth Rollins was good.
That was a hell of a match. Probably one of the best matches they've had, like, during this whole epidemic that's been going on.
Yeah, I really liked that. I didn't like Seth's promo he cut before he came out, because it seemed really like like he wasn't quite sure what he was going for. It seemed like really scripted at parts, and then other parts seemed really good. I'm like, yeah, I like I like the tone of voice. I like what you're saying. I like where this is going. But then other bits seem really like forced and written, and I didn't like it. Um, like he was a caricature of what he was trying to go for. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's funny you say that though, because I wasn't too keen on Drew McIntyre's pre-match promo as well, where he kind of comes out and immediately is like, "Oh, happy Mother's Day, everyone," and stuff like that. Like it's a bit like, okay, he's kind of lost his edge a little bit. Like,
well, that's what I really liked about watching that Drew McIntyre stuff is that he had this wonderful like kind of like a jokey, kind of casualness. That I feel like if they'd have done that with Roman Reigns when they had the chance, he would have got over big. That's the character for Roman Reigns. And Drew McIntyre can do it. He can pull it off pretty well. He's good on the mic, so he knows when to get serious and when not to get serious. And he can pull off that kind of casual, like, yeah, I'll kick your ass kind of dynamic. And it's the kind of thing I wish they had done with Roman Reigns, and they didn't. But I'm happy to see them do it with Drew McIntyre. I'm very happy about that.
yeah.
So I like that match. I tell you what, my favorite part of the whole show. My favorite part of the whole show was the hype video for Bray Wyatt versus Braun Strowman.
Oh yeah.
That hype video is fucking incredible. It was so good because it did a really good job of like putting over both characters. It did a really good job of hyping the fact that they both have history. Like, after watching that hype video, I'm like, I want to watch this match, which blew me away because I'm like, I didn't give a shit about it before this, Yeah. And the match itself is all right. I really like Bray Wyatt. I really like him. There's, like, his mannerisms. He's done the smart thing that I think we talked about before in the show, and I wasn't sure if he was going to be able to do it. But he can do a very good job of distinguishing a difference between the Fiend and Bray Wyatt. Like they have different mannerisms and characteristics, and and that comes across in this because he was Bray Wyatt, and it was like watching him is fun. And honestly, like Braun Strowman, not well known for his work, but like that's probably one of the better Braun Strowman matches you've ever seen, right?
Well,
I mean, what I mean by that is I'm not gonna say that it was a 5-star classic by any means.
No.
But like I said, Braun Strowman's hardly known for his 5-star classics. So if you think of all the Braun Strowman matches you've seen and then watch that one, I'm like, that's got to be one of the better ones.
I kind of disagree a little bit just because it started off okay. It started off like as a natural match, and then as soon as it starts degrading into the whole puppet show and then bringing out the black sheep mask and stuff, and it just I really didn't enjoy that at all. And like the whole fact that this was Bray Wyatt wrestling as himself, whereas every other time he's wrestled over the last year since he came back, he's been wrestling as the Fiend. So it's like, well, why is he suddenly wrestling as Bray Wyatt, to take on Braun Strowman for the Universal Championship? And it's like, well, the only reason is so they can drag this out another month so that you can get to the Fiend match. So
yeah. That's exactly what I thought. I figured like the reason he's Bray Wyatt now is because they're clearly teasing something. I think the only other time he was Bray Wyatt was against The Miz.
Right.
And I think that's because he doesn't need to be the Fiend to beat The Miz.
Yeah.
It's a fucking Miz,
Yeah.
But like I'm not opposed to seeing the Fiend versus Braun Strowman.
I wonder where they can go from there though.
Well, if they just like have Bray like totally hype up the intensity and the insanity and get push the envelope a little bit further, I think that it'll be decent enough. I do agree with you on the puppet thing, because when the fucking puppet happened the first time, like the pig was on the outside and he's like, go get him, Bray. I was like, what the fuck was that? I really was just like, what? But then when when Braun Strowman came up with the black mask on, while I cynically when I saw that, I'm like, why would Bray Wyatt fall for such an obvious ploy?
Yeah.
You know, there's no way that halfway through this match, Braun Strowman said, "Fuck it, you were right. I'll be your friend." Like, you know, I don't see why he would have fallen for that. But I thought it was a nice touch that went along with the hype video that I was talking about. You know, it shows the history and you know, I didn't hate that match, and I thought I would. I think that's what I'm gonna say about that.
Well, you're a better man than me then, because I didn't
That's
enjoy it at all.
that is debatable. Um, what the fuck else happened on that show? Was there anything else? What were the
There
other ones?
was a SmackDown Women's Championship match between Bayley and
Oh,
Tamina.
yeah. Well, again, like, I gotta say, as Tamina matches go, it's probably one of the better ones I've ever seen.
That's because she got beat up for most of it.
Yeah, and I gotta say, I really like Bailey as a heel. But first, when it started, you know, I think everybody was apprehensive because Bailey is such like a renowned good guy, you know,
Mm.
such face. But like you can tell by this point, she knows what she's doing. Like she's into it. When she first started being a heel, even she seemed a little like, how do I do this?
Yeah, yeah.
But now, but she is good, you know, and it's exactly what she needed,
Mm.
you know. So I enjoyed that for
Plus,
the
it's
most.
all about setting up the inevitable like Bailey Sasha showdown as well. Like they're
Mhm,
just laying the seeds for it still at the moment, and
mhm.
I mean, you just hope they don't take too long to pull the trigger because that's basically what happened 2 years ago when they were like originally teaming up and constantly falling out week after week, and it looked like they were building to a match or a turn or something, and then it just never came. So this has been a long time coming, I guess.
But I think this has been handled much better than it was last year.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like they that was the problem, is that they kept dropping the ball and they kept making it like one week it would be pretty clear that that's exactly where they were going, and then the next week they were best friends and they forgot about it. And you know, the typical WWE where they drop the ball and forget about stuff. But
Mm.
now they're doing a very good job of like hyping that up and doing that like subtly. They're not like banging you over the head with it, which is what they usually do with this shit.
Yeah.
So like for once they're handling something pretty well. You know, I mean, like the more we talk about Money in the Bank, I'm like, s- they're not doing a whole lot of things wrong. You know
No.
what I mean? Like stuff is making sense. You know, people might not like Braun Strowman as a worker, but as a wrestler, he makes sense to be on top. Same with Lashley. You might not think, oh, he's my favorite wrestler,
Mm.
but at least he looks and acts and can work like a wrestler. Makes sense to put him on the show. You know what I mean? The opening match, the tag team match was fun. Um, you know, stuff is moving in a good way, which is
Yeah.
bizarre because you wouldn't think that with this pandemic shit would be working that well. You know?
Well, in terms of ratings and stuff, it's not working that well, but
That's true. But
you
like
know.
storyline wise and shit, like a lot of it makes sense.
Yeah, it's not because we've criticized WWE in the past for essentially looking like they just book on the fly. Like they show up on Monday and it's like, okay, what are we doing tonight? There's like
Yeah.
no long-term planning or anything. Whereas, these shows, it does look like they know where they're going. They've got like a plan in place,
Mhm.
and it definitely makes a difference to the product.
Well, to be honest, I think the reason for that is because the shows are taped or partly taped or
Mm,
whatever, because it means that you have to think far ahead and you
yeah,
have to tape in advance and you have to stick to your guns. You can't change on the fly because then all the shit you've taped isn't going to make any sense. So you kind of have to, you're forced to work these long-term storylines and then work them around people's availability and when they can come in and out and record and when they can tape and things like that. So it actually, unbelievably, has made it into like a more coherent show. that kind of, you know, sticks to their guns a lot more than the haphazard. Because we've been doing this for a while, and like it feels like every fucking episode is just here's some more bullshit they threw together that nobody likes. And now that nobody's watching the fucking show, now they're actually doing like half decent storylines and stuff. Very, very interesting. You know, but was that all the undercard? I think.
I think so. Yeah. There was a pre-show match, but I didn't watch that.
Oh, that was Cesaro versus Jeff Hardy.
Yeah.
I did watch that. Now, Jeff Hardy was working an angle with Sheamus. Now here we go into the nonsensical business. Thank you very much. Jeff Hardy's working an angle with Sheamus, right?
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, logically, the match on the pre-show is Jeff Hardy versus Cesaro.
Of course.
Because just why? What the fuck, right? Now, if you were booking this, number one, you probably would have booked Sheamus versus Jeff Hardy.
Yeah.
That's what they were fucking going for. But number two, if you had to pick somebody to go over in that match, would you pick like an incredibly reliable, versatile worker who can make Shinola out of shit, who can do pretty much anything in the ring, who's amazing and has, you know, stuck by them for years as a solid hand, like a really good guy to have around? Or would you pick a convicted felon?
Well, you know,
would you have a criminal? Who would you go for? The guy who's probably gonna get in trouble again, or the guy who, like, day in and day out is the fucking workhorse of that company?
But by that logic, you could say, well, why are they hiring, you know, keeping Jeff Hardy in a job anyway? Then why don't they just fire him and get it over and done with now?
Right. That's pretty much exactly what I'm saying. They got rid of one Hardy Boy. The option is there to get rid of the other Hardy Boy. You know what I mean? It just so happens that one Hardy Boy is over with the audience and the other one isn't. So they got rid of the one that wasn't, kept the one that was. Conversely, now that there is no audience, I don't see why they couldn't get rid of the other Hardy Boy. But like that made me sad, because I'm like, Cesaro is thrown into this match with no build and no reason behind it. And then also he loses to Jeff Hardy, who was busted for some kind of DUI like this year. Wasn't it this year? Earlier this year?
I believe it was late last year.
Right.
I don't think he's been arrested this year.
Right. Okay, give it time.
Yeah.
But then, like, wasn't it the year before that he got busted for something? Like how many times has he been arrested for shenanigans?
Oh, yeah. I think he's had 2 DUIs definitely since he's been back with WWE.
Right. Like, that's bizarre. Because you know they're paying him good money. Like, you can't drink at home? What the fuck, man? Especially now, like, just stay home and get tanked or whatever the fuck. Like, are you telling me that guy couldn't have had the foresight to buy a couple more beers before he started drinking? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, he's Jeff Hardy. He could fucking buy the brewery. So yeah, I mean, Cesaro did the best he could, but I went into that match knowing that he wasn't going to win, so I didn't pay a whole lot of attention to that one. But I think that was the most of the show, and then we get to the main event, which was the Money in the Bank, technically supposed to be a ladder match.
Yes.
Ladders like featured into, I don't know, like 5% of that match. I liked the little, when it started and you saw like all the competitors at first, when you saw them, like when you saw Lacey Evans, she was framed on the camera and it kind of like told you who she beat and who she didn't beat and had her music playing. And I quite liked that because it reminded me of like a character select screen for like Street Fighter or something.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know? And I dug that. I'm like, it's a nice little touch. It's the way that, do you remember they used to have, whenever they would do the match graphics for a show, but they would move. So like, it's like, Jeff Hardy versus Cesaro, but instead of just pictures, they would show like a little video.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, that's a nice touch. That looks professional. It looks really classy, and I like it. It's something neat. So I thought that was quite a good angle. But then, for some reason, they introduced the women and the men like interspersed.
Yeah.
Which I didn't quite get. And then they did the best thing. Well, second best thing, maybe the third best thing, where they introduced Asuka and she didn't turn up, and then the camera like pans up and she's just dancing on top of a little,
like ledge, yeah.
Yeah, which I love. Well, obviously I would love it, but I don't know why, but having Asuka just dance a lot, that's normally a gimmick that never ever works with anybody. But god damn it, she's so good. She can just make that work. I don't know, how does she do it?
She's just so charismatic. She can pull it off, and like even when she's constantly running her mouth, like you don't know what she's saying, but you just know you're entertained by it.
Exactly. She's so good. She speaks another language and she's still like incredibly entertaining. I don't know how she does it. So that I liked. I did like the fact that, and I suspected that they would do this, where the men and the women started in different places. Which did we talk about this on another show, where we like, how was it gonna work? Were they gonna start it like, was the women gonna start at the front or the men start in the back? And that's kind of what happened. The women started at like the front and the men started in like a gym area.
Yeah.
So at the start I was like, okay, let's just see how that goes. After Asuka is like dancing on her little awning, she jumps off, knocks down everybody somehow. That's a thing that I don't really like about modern wrestling, is the old one person jumps into six people and all six people fall over dead.
Yeah.
And like, especially whenever you've got like Shayna Baszler there, or people like that. You're like, they I don't get why they sell like they're concussed or knocked out or whatever. If somebody jumped on you, you'd get up after like a couple of seconds, right?
Yeah, especially if there's like 5 other people absorbing the impact.
Right, exactly. So like I don't get that. I'm willing to overlook it because it meant Asuka could escape to the elevator.
But then she gets to the elevator. Why doesn't she just go straight up to the roof?
Well, this is another thing that annoyed me, is like after we started watching the show like this, it became quite clear that this was going to be another one of those edited matches.
Yeah.
Not quite cinematic level, not quite boneyard match. But like heavily edited, and shenanigans are afoot. And for the most part, they didn't work out too badly, but there were a couple of bits that really fucking annoyed me. Number one was the like the continuity, the timing. So like Asuka would go up in the lift, and then 10 minutes would pass, and Asuka's still in the lift, and then the people who run up the stairs get up the stairs before Asuka gets out of the lift.
Yeah.
What? She's in the lift. What the fuck? Like, how did they get there before she does? That doesn't make any sense. And like, why doesn't she go to the roof?
Yep.
Why doesn't she go straight there? Stuff like, so that annoyed me. And then on the men's side, you had them all fighting in the gym, and then they did the spot where Otis drops like a weight on top of AJ Styles.
Yeah.
And AJ Styles can clearly, and props to him for making it look like he couldn't. Like he did try to make it look like he couldn't, but he could clearly just like slide under that, no problem.
Yeah.
So Rey Mysterio walks past him and doesn't help him. So after that, AJ Styles is pissed off at Rey Mysterio for doing nothing, as opposed to being pissed at Otis, who fucking put him in that position to begin with.
Yeah, of course.
That doesn't make any sense. And then AJ Styles is walking around. He sees a picture of The Undertaker. That bit wasn't too bad. The problem was that he looked at a picture of The Undertaker for like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
but it got over what it was supposed to, in that he was still having like, you know, PTSD.
Yeah.
That's fair enough. Then he walks into a room full of Undertaker shit. And like, why is there a room just for the Undertaker?
Yeah.
Like, why did that happen?
It was pretty bizarre. But then
all-
he like gets trapped in there as if, oh no, he's stuck, he's out of the match. And then like a couple minutes later, Aleister Black and whoever like run off ahead. And then AJ suddenly pops out of nowhere, like in front of them somehow.
Right.
So he's not only not trapped in the room, but he's somehow managed to get ahead of them.
Oh, but this also, you see, we're you know, it's hard for us to get the continuity right because they were so bad at it. But this is after, whenever AJ Styles was trapped under the weight in the gym, everybody else ran up like a flight of stairs.
Yeah.
They're already on the second floor or whatever. Whenever AJ Styles gets freed, he's walking around, and then he finds Aleister Black, who like traps him into the Undertaker room or something like that, right?
Mm.
So now how is he on that same floor that they're on?
Ugh.
He should be 10 minutes behind them.
Yeah.
And then also, whenever Aleister Black like closes him in the Undertaker room, he doesn't lock the door.
No. I thought he was going to as well. It looked like he was actually reaching for it, and he was just like, nah.
He just closes the door. And you're like, oh, all right, this is where this is gonna go. No, this is just shit I can remember because fair play to that match, it did give a shit that we can remember.
Yeah.
But not necessarily because it was any good. You know.
What did you think of like all the cameos in it?
Wow. Yes. All right. There was one in particular I liked, but I only liked it because it was really stupid.
Mm.
And to be fair, all of them are really stupid.
Yeah.
There was not a single cameo there that was any good. Who? Well,
So
okay.
Brother Love was
Brother
the
Love.
first one.
Brother Love was there, in the bathroom,
Yeah.
which is bizarre because I would understand why Bruce Pritchard would be there.
Mm-hmm.
Why would Brother Love be there?
Yeah.
He hasn't been Brother Love in like 30 years. What the fuck? But you know, I expected shenanigans like that, so I'm like, all right, I'll put that aside. Don't worry about that. The Doink the Clown thing.
That was just weird. It was just some office guy wearing Doink makeup.
I hated that because it just looked like some fucking guy. You know, I didn't like that one. But the one I really liked was at some point Otis goes into the kitchen and he finds a pie. And like, you know what's gonna happen. As soon as he walks in and he's like, oh hey, look, it's 10 o'clock at night and the entire building is shut, but here's 3 freshly baked pies sitting on the countertop. You're like, all right, who's gonna get a pie in the face? And then Johnny Ace comes over in a fucking mobility scooter.
Yeah, did he always ride in one of those, or is that a new thing?
I don't remember him ever riding a mobility scooter. So, and typically in Johnny Ace fashion, he just sits there forever.
He just
doesn't
says,
do anything good.
People power.
He says people power, but then he just stands there. He sits there forever. He's begging for the pie in the face.
Yeah.
So Otis hits him with the pie in the face. I like that because I am an idiot, right? But also I have a real affinity for like really old shitty gags like that.
Yeah.
Like I think because we've moved on as a society to not find a pie in the face or slipping on a banana skin to be funny, that's why I find it funny. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Like it's so stupid and predictable in Liam that somehow it becomes like funny to me. So I did enjoy that. And then they went to Vince McMahon's office.
Well, before
Vince McMahon, they found Paul Heyman eating at a buffet by himself.
Which you can pretty much guarantee that was just Vince going, Paul Heyman's really fat. Let's take the piss out of him.
Yeah. He's a big fat guy. Let's have him eat the buffet. Poor guy didn't get to eat any of it.
Nope.
I mean, we're definitely skipping around this whole match, but there's a lot to digest. There's a lot to take in.
The funniest one for me was the Stephanie McMahon cameo where she clearly wasn't there.
Right.
It was like filmed and edited in really badly.
Right. That's what I was gonna say about the continuity. Is that the two things that annoyed me? One was the time difference not adding up, and the second was that Stephanie McMahon bit. Because it was just clear that they had filmed that like days before that. Like the lighting was different. She wasn't in the same room.
It even sounded a bit different.
The quality was not the same quality. Like the video footage was not the same quality as the other footage. Like what? What? How hard was that one to use the same camera? Like that. Oh, bizarre. Although, it's hard to talk about this entire match because it was such a shit show. But one bit I did like was Dana Brooke just walking around with a fucking picture on her head.
Yeah.
Again, a very old school Vince McMahon style gag. And I like it because it's 70 years out of date. You don't see that gag anymore. That's why I liked it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I thought that was really like that's a commitment to the bit. Just walking around with fucking she could have taken it off at any point in the match. She didn't have to walk around with it, but that she kept it on. I dug that. I thought that was funny. I didn't understand like the whole Stephanie McMahon bit where Stephanie McMahon sees Dana Brooke taking the Money in the Bank briefcase that's clearly full of money. It's see-through, and you can see it's full of fake cash. She takes it off the hook in the boardroom, and Stephanie McMahon says, "This is the boardroom. The rules of this match are that you have to go to the roof. Everybody knows this. It has been made abundantly clear that you have to go to the roof to get the briefcase." Like, I didn't get that because Dana Brooke's not doing some kind of R-Truth gimmick.
Yeah.
Like, she's not an idiot. I mean, she is now.
Well, yeah, they did portray her as a bit of an idiot. Like, she even slipped on the wet floor as well, didn't she?
Well, I mean, that again, slipping on a banana skin. Vince McMahon and me have very similar tastes in comedy. The only difference is he has these tastes in comedy because he grew up whenever that style of comedy was actually popular. Whereas he still thinks it's funny now, and I'm like, I find it funny because it's not funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I don't know.
The whole Vince cameo as well, like that would just seemed so perfunctory. Like it was just like, oh, we have to put Vince in here, but they didn't really know what to do with him. So it was just like a nothing moment, like, you know, with AJ and Daniel Bryan brawling into his office, and you know, you get to see the massive T-Rex skull that everyone was mentioning in the build-up, like about, oh yeah, we want to go and throw someone into Vince's T-Rex skull and stuff like that. But nothing happened when they got in the office. He just kind of looked at them and told them to get out, and so they did. It's like, okay, great.
But do you think that they did nothing with Vince McMahon because they couldn't do anything with Vince McMahon? He's like 70 years old, right?
Well, you say that, but like, you know, you still hear stories about him, you know, showing Gronk how to dive off that balcony at WrestleMania. Like
that, by the way, if that is true, I fucking love Vince McMahon even more. And I hate Gronk, whatever the fuck his name is, Gronk, Mr. Gronk. I hate him more because, like, he's a professional athlete and he couldn't do that spot. You needed the 70-year-old man to fucking show you how to do that. And he did it. Right? You're like, that's one thing I like about Vince McMahon is that you always get the idea that he wouldn't ask you to do anything that he wouldn't do himself.
Yeah, yeah.
I like that about him. You know, that there's a real like integrity there. I like that. Whereas, you know, you can't say the same about Gronk, for example. I didn't see him at this fucking show defending his 24/7 championship.
Nope.
lazy piece of shit.
Haven't seen him at all since WrestleMania, in fact.
Right, 24/7 championship. Why can't somebody just turn up to his house?
Yeah.
So like the Vince McMahon thing, I'm like, I felt like he looked really old.
Yeah.
And I feel like maybe that he just didn't want. Well, number one, he probably didn't want people ruining his office.
Yeah.
Understandable. But number two, like, he can't, like, the reason he's not on TV anymore is because he can't really go out and do that shit anymore. He's smart enough to remove himself from, like, the public eye for the most part. Except when he's slagging off Triple H for some reason. But even that didn't look great,
Yeah.
It's hard. It's very hard to, like, keep track of this whole match because it was so in and out. But, like, did you notice that there was a lot? I felt there was a lot more focus on the men than the women.
Yeah, definitely felt that way.
Because, like, Asuka runs into the elevator. She goes up 3 flights of stairs, and then, then she runs to the roof, and she's, like, pretty much, like, I don't get why. Again, because of the time issue with this match, I don't get why she didn't just win automatically. Nobody else should have been behind her. Like, she was clearly far and away ahead of everybody else. I don't get why it was like a race to the top whenever she, time-wise, should have been way ahead of everybody else.
Yep. It had a bit of a wacky racers quality to it.
Yeah, there was something, but yeah, there was something very cartoony about it, which I don't like. Like, that was, whenever we talked about WrestleMania, I didn't want to see any more edited videos and edited matches because that ruins the point. It ruins the fundamental point of wrestling. And I understand that having a Money in the Bank match in its traditional format also kind of ruins wrestling in its traditional sense because there's very little wrestling involved and it's just hitting people with a ladder and then taking a briefcase off a hook, which, back in the day, a lot, Ric Flair very rarely did that.
Yeah.
Bruno Sammartino didn't really do that a whole lot. You didn't see it back in the day. But like this, like, there was a ring on the roof, and there was only one ring, despite there being 2 matches. So they had to have both briefcases over the one ring, which meant that really only one division could be in the ring at one time, which is pretty much yeah. Aside from Baron Corbin cameo, basically what happened was one division in the ring at one time. So they had to rush one of the divisions up to the roof first, which was the women's one, which meant that there was more time for the men to, like, dick around in the hallways. But for me, I don't know if you felt like this, but, like, I didn't think that they went stupid enough. And that probably sounds like crazy hypocritical, given that I just said I don't like the stupidness. But I'm like, if they're gonna be stupid about it, like, be stupid. A food fight isn't that stupid. Just seeing, and like we said with the Vince McMahon thing, Vince McMahon didn't do anything, but, like, Bruce Pritchard didn't do anything either. Donkey the Clown didn't do anything. These people were just there. They had no benefit or no bearing on the match whatsoever. They were just kind of there to be like, remember this? I'm like, yeah, kind of. Like, it wasn't as wacky racist as I thought they were going to, because I really thought they were going to go, like, full on wacky races with it.
Yeah.
And they didn't really. They just like kind of cut together a bunch of shit that didn't really, go together. Stephanie McMahon didn't really do anything. You know what I mean? Like, they're just there, and which is evident by Stephanie McMahon, like, refusing to be there with the people and not interacting with anybody. But, like,
that's kind of WWE all over, though. When it comes to comedy stuff, it's usually so forced or just, like, not even any effort really put into it at all. So it's just like, hey, this guy, isn't that funny? He's here. It's like, well, no, that's not inherently funny in itself. That's just
right. There's no gag there.
No.
It's what gets me about a lot of, like, internet people these days, and like a lot of humor on the internet, is that there's never a joke. It seems like there's a punchline, but there's no joke, there's no setup, there's no anything. And you're like, well, I don't get it, but because there's nothing to get. And then people like lose their minds. They're like, this is hilarious. And I'm like, it's not. There's no. You haven't told the joke yet.
Yeah.
Right? Like a punchline by itself isn't funny because you don't know what the setup is. Right? So like, which is why with the Johnny Ace bit, at least as predictable as it was, you like when you saw the pie, you knew what was gonna happen next.
Yeah.
You just didn't know who was gonna get a pie, and then it happened to be Johnny Ace, who nobody likes. And then you're like, all right, I dig this. Johnny Ace is gonna get a pie in the face, and then he does. Predictable, but still funny because that's the intended purpose, you know. Whereas Bruce Pritchard washing his hands, I don't. Right? That's the end of the joke, but what's the beginning of it? There isn't one. So like it was all kind of like all over the place. Oh yeah, I forgot one bit that I really wanted to talk about. Was and this was at the beginning of the match. It's so hard to keep up with this fucking bullshit. When they're in the weight room and Baron Corbin like throws a weight at Daniel Bryan or something. And it smashes the mirror. And then they do like this weird like slow zoom on Baron Corbin while the sad music plays.
Yeah.
What the what was that bit? Right? And then they cut to something else. And then they cut back to Baron Corbin doing that bit again.
Yeah.
Why would they do it twice?
Oh dear.
Oh god, that I find funny because I'm like, I don't understand that. But they did it. And like again, like there was no setup or build up to it. It's not like Baron Corbin was superstitious about breaking a mirror. It's not like there was any like fine put in place about what happens if you ruin the building, which would have made sense if he smashed something. Then he would have got a fine. None of that. So anyway, the point of this whole thing. Well, let me ask you this: what was your favorite like part of the in-building part of the TLC or the Money in the Bank match? We're not before they got to the roof, like the bullshit that went on around that.
I don't know.
Probably none of it. I was amused by stuff and vaguely entertained, but I didn't really like a lot of it, to be honest. Right.
I mean, like, even when it came to like the food fight, okay, that was like an obvious setup, and it wasn't a great food fight or anything, but at least it was, something to break up the match and kind of bring the two, the men and the women together as well. But like, I don't know, like the whole thing just didn't seem to do anyone any favors. Like Shayna Baszler especially. What is she doing mixed up in this bullshit? She
used to be a legit MMA fighter.
Yeah. She's having a food fight.
She used to legitimately like choke bitches out. And here she is clowning around. I felt sorry for her. I did, because I'm like, well, she's still getting a big fat paycheck, so she, I can't be too sad about it. But
she seemed to disappear from the match as well for no good reason.
Right, like they didn't have, again, the continuity wasn't right. Like, where were half of these people?
Yeah.
Like it doesn't make any sense. So you weren't a big fan of the majority of the match?
No, not really. And like going on the whole like just logistics of it as well, like when it came to the getting up to the ring and trying to grab the briefcase and stuff, one thing that really bothered me, you got the two briefcases up there, like the white briefcase for the women, the green briefcase for the men. Yes. Like, what if Asuka had grabbed the green briefcase? Would that mean Otis would now be the new women's champion on Raw? Like, because he
we're getting ahead of ourselves.
I know, but it's like there's just stuff like that is not really.
I assume that while the storyline is the contracts are in the briefcase, I feel like the contracts are probably like, you know, open-ended in a way, and just to say that like the superstar who picks this briefcase is in line for a title shot of their choosing.
Oh no, they legit said on Raw that like Becky said, "Oh, you couldn't open this briefcase after you
Well,
got
what,
it." But that's
right, we know that now,
yeah,
but at the time when we didn't know that, it made sense for them to just have two briefcases. I mean, I say it made sense. It doesn't make any sense to hang two briefcases above a building and then have 12 professional wrestlers fight up a building to get to the top and climb a ladder. No, all right, none of that makes any sense when you say it out loud. But like in the context of the thing, it seemed like it half made sense to have, the contracts be a little bit nonsense. Like I feel like if Asuka had picked any one of those briefcases, she would have been grand. Because we all know, spoiler alert, that the women's championship was quote unquote in one of the briefcases. But like, had she picked any of them, had she picked either of those briefcases, the women's championship would have appeared in either of those briefcases. Wink, wink on Raw. We know that now.
yeah,
And we'll get to that. We will get to that. So okay. So they get to the roof. The women get there first. Asuka does some shenanigans. Baron Corbin turns up for some reason. Doesn't matter. The point is, Asuka climbs the ladder, wins the women's Money in the Bank match.
yeah.
I'm over the moon. I'm like, fuck the rest of it. I will happily put up with the food fights and Johnny Ace getting the pie in the face and all the other bizarre bullshit because Asuka won the Money in the Bank briefcase. I'm very happy with that. Couldn't give a shit about the men's. None of it made any, no difference to me whatsoever, which is good given what happened after that. Because then the men came out to do their Money in the Bank shenanigans, and Baron Corbin did this infamous spot where, with absolutely no fanfare whatsoever, appeared to kill Rey Mysterio and Aleister Black by throwing him off the roof. And then, I don't know, maybe 10 seconds later, they had an aerial shot of the roof where you could see exactly where Rey Mysterio and Aleister Black would have landed.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, right?
It's just lazy.
But that you had time to edit that.
Yeah, they could have shot it from the other side of the building so you can't see the crash pad.
Don't put that shot in. Moments afterwards, Jesus Christ, man. And then more shit happened that I, honest to God, by that point, was not paying attention to. And then Otis climbed the ladder and won this briefcase.
Well, he didn't climb the ladder. He's sort of...
Well, that's... Okay, yeah. AJ Styles climbed the ladder, right? And then...
Yeah, AJ and Corbin, and then they were tussling over the briefcase, and then that's when Elias showed up and smashed Corbin in the back with a guitar, which somehow made AJ drop the briefcase right into Otis's hands. Right.
No. That was the same kind of finish they did with the women's Money in the Bank, but Carmella won, right? James Ellsworth got the briefcase and gave it to Carmella.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
So, like, we've seen this before. There's precedent there. That's probably the least crazy thing that happened on that show.
Yeah.
It wasn't great, admittedly, but
no.
like Otis, I dare say, was the one person nobody thought was going to win that match.
You know what it is, though? Because I've been thinking about why they went for Otis, because he is, like, such a strange choice for the winner. But, like, my best guess is it's all part of WWE's attempt to kind of justify still putting on shows by, trying to provide quote unquote entertainment in these like trying times or whatever. So they've gone with a guy who's essentially just a comedy wrestler at this point. He's, and I'm not slating Otis or anything like that, because he has been like one of the few bright spots on the shows in recent months. Like the whole story with Mandy Rose and everything was way better than it had any right to be, and it's led to him getting a lot of focus on TV and stuff, and you can respect that they want to reward that and feature him a lot. But in terms of him being a viable world title or universal championship contender,
right. Well, that's the thing, that like before and after that match, Otis made it clear that when he won the Money in the Bank briefcase, he was going to use it to cash in to get him and Tucker a tag team championship opportunity.
Right.
And I hate that garbage, because he's like in a roster where they don't have a whole ton of teams anyway. I don't think it is at all out of the question that Heavy Machinery would have got a championship opportunity anyway, given the fact that earlier on the show 3 other teams got a shot at the tag team championship, right?
Yeah.
I don't think that is at all like out of the realms of possibility. It's the same whenever John Cena won the Money in the Bank. Like John Cena can the point of the Money in the Bank briefcase is that anybody can have a shot at any time.
Yeah.
John Cena, when he won that belt, was in a position where he could say, I want a shot at the championship, and he would have got one. Now, given that all 4 other tag teams on SmackDown were already in action earlier on the show, if you take those 4 teams out of consideration, what other teams are there on SmackDown?
Exactly, yeah. It's
pretty much just Heavy Machinery. So I feel like they would have got a tag team shot pretty soon anyway. I don't see why they had to go down that angle, because it seemed like a logical conclusion anyway. So if he is to cash in his Money in the Bank briefcase to get a tag team title shot, number one, that doesn't make any sense. Number two, that's a wasted opportunity, like in character. If that was you, say you and me were a tag team, and we were in the WWE, and you won a briefcase that got you a title shot at any time you wanted, would you continue being a tag team with me and cash in that opportunity to get a tag team championship shot that we would have got anyway, or would you fucking take a punt and have a go at Braun Strowman?
I mean, clearly he'd go for Braun Strowman.
You'd just have a go.
Yeah.
You'd be like, well, what's this? Let's see what happens. I'm never going to get this opportunity again.
Exactly.
I'll take my shot, right? I don't understand.
But, we can't really judge what he's going to do with the title shot yet, because he hasn't done anything. So even though he said about, I'll cash it in for a tag team title shot, you never know. Like, Tucker might say, no, go for the universal title or something, and then that's what he ends up doing. So, which
would totally suck.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's
no offense to that guy, because I really like them as a tag team. I think they're fun to watch. Not the best wrestlers in the world, but they're fun to watch. They're entertaining. They have a definite spot on that roster.
Yeah,
and they fill it very well. But it doesn't make sense to make him like a fucking singles guy, because he's not a singles guy. He's a tag team guy, and he's very good at that role. Why mess with that before they've even got a chance to be a tag team?
You got to feel for Tucker as well, who must be like watching all of this like unfold over the last few months, with Otis being featured here, there, and everywhere, and he's just like sat in the back pretty much like, okay, right. So is my phone call coming soon to say that I've been fired as well? Or
right, he's like, are we still a tag team? What the fuck?
Yeah.
When was the last time we tagged together?
Jesus.
Yeah. All right. So that was Money in the Bank. I thought, for the most part, it was okay. Like, I didn't hate it. But
You know what was really refreshing as well is the fact it was like 2 hours 25 long or something like that.
yeah,
Like in
yeah.
this day and age where like every WWE pay-per-view seems to go on for fucking ever, this one was just like, oh, a nice easy sit down and watch, and you don't
Yeah.
have to invest too much into it.
I was very surprised about that. I thought there was gonna be another like match. Like
Mm.
I thought there was a Raw tag team title match scheduled. I had no idea. And then the Money in the Bank match happened, and then it was all over at a reasonable time. I'm like, all right, cool, I dig that.
Yeah.
That's nice. But yeah, like the show itself, like for the most part was okay. The Money in the Bank match itself, I didn't care much for.
No. It's like I
No.
say, I didn't particularly enjoy like a lot of the forced attempts in it to, be funny and all the slapstick moments and all that kind of stuff. But in terms of just doing something different, and I guess you could say it wasn't that boring. It was just yeah.
Backlash is coming back. How about that?
Yeah.
Nice. So Money in the Bank, we thought it was okay for the most part.
Yes.
Cut to not even 24 hours later, and Becky Lynch has a big announcement for everybody. She was supposed to confront the winner of the Money in the Bank match. So she comes out, Asuka comes out, Becky Lynch makes Asuka open the briefcase, and inside is the Women's Championship
Mm-hmm.
because Becky Lynch is pregnant and Asuka is the new Women's Champion.
Indeed.
Now, I am over the fucking moon because in 24 hours, Asuka has won 2 things, and she has done, let's be fair here, very little to win either of them.
Yep.
I mean, I love Asuka to death, but that Money in the Bank match wasn't a match
No.
at all, and she ran away from most of it. And then is practically just given the Raw Women's Championship. So she has done very little and has won 2 things, and in doing so becomes like the greatest Grand Slam champion of all time.
Yeah, she's won the NXT Women's title, the Raw Women's title, the SmackDown Women's title, the Women's Tag Team titles, the Women's Royal Rumble, and now the Women's Money in the Bank match as well.
Yep, which is pretty much everything you can win if you're a woman. And she did it, and I am just ecstatic. I am over the moon. I'm so happy that Asuka is doing really well because she's so good. And while in those 2 nights, she didn't really get to showcase just how good she is, dancing aside, she didn't really get to show like what kind of a killer she is as a wrestler. I'm still like super, super happy that she was able to achieve that kind of thing.
I think we should also mention like the whole Becky aspect of it as well. Like
why Becky Lynch gave up the championship?
Yeah, because that, it's a pretty major thing, really. Like Becky going off to be a mother.
I would much rather talk about Asuka, but
Yeah. Well,
if
okay,
you
let's talk about, Asuka's reaction to Becky making her announcement as well, because that was a genuinely like
it did, yeah, it did.
It was
seem
a really nice moment.
It did seem very genuine and very like sweet. Did you see CM Punk had something to say about that?
No, I haven't heard about that.
Well, let me tell you, and this is gonna surprise you, but I totally agree with CM Punk in that he suggested that it was a missed opportunity.
Right.
Because what if you had Asuka come out with Becky Lynch? Becky Lynch gifts the Women's Champion to Asuka. Asuka's like, oh, I'm so happy. I can't believe you're pregnant. That's amazing. And then spits the mist in Becky Lynch's eyes. Then Becky Lynch is away anyway. She's pregnant. She has to leave. 9 months. Everybody else is going to be like, wow, Asuka's a bitch. She did that to a pregnant woman. And she's the champion. All eyes are going to be on Asuka. You've got your number one heel right there. You have months of storyline of people trying to take down Asuka to get revenge for Becky Lynch. And then whenever Becky Lynch does return, bam, instant rematch.
Right. Well,
Like,
there's like a couple of
that makes
problems
sense.
with that though. Like the fact that with Becky Lynch gone, they need like a new de facto face for the division on Raw. So Asuka is clearly the right choice to be that number one face because she's just blown up over the last couple of
Her
months.
dancing has got her over.
Yeah, and her shit talking.
She is great
Um,
at shit talking.
yeah, but on top of that as well, you just don't know when Becky Lynch is going to come back because, like, I think she's even said it herself. Like the fact that being a mother changes you and changes your priorities and stuff. So just because she's going to be away for 9 months, obviously until the baby's born, it doesn't mean at the end of that 9 months she's coming straight back. I mean, she's going to want to spend time with the kid and stuff, and
Hey,
there'd be probably at least another, who knows, like at least 6 months I would have thought before she kind of comes back to the active roster after that.
right,
But
but I mean,
possibly
like,
longer.
if you were gonna do an angle at next WrestleMania, wouldn't that have been that would have been great? And then you would have had Asuka holding the belt for almost as long as Becky Lynch held it.
Yeah, but
Like,
I don't
there's
think.
there's a story there, basically. Is
Mm,
what me and Punk are saying is there was an opportunity for a story to be right there,
yeah, but
built
I,
in. You
I still don't agree it's the right story.
Fair enough. However, was the Money in the Bank the right story to tell? They have a history of not telling the right story. You know what I mean? I don't know. The point is, Becky Lynch is pregnant. Ronda Rousey must be really fucking pissed
Yeah.
that she spent all this time trying to be pregnant. She hasn't done it. Becky Lynch comes in. Number one, beats her at WrestleMania. Number two, eclipses her as women's champion. Number three, becomes pregnant before she did. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Poor old Ronda Rousey.
I'm sure, yeah, she's really pissed off in her
Oh, I
mansion with
bet
all of her millions of dollars.
I bet she's real cut up about it.
Yeah.
She's too busy working the marks.
Yeah.
What else? What else should we talk about? All I really wanted to talk about was Asuka, to be honest with you,
Yeah.
as you could probably tell.
I guess another thing to mention is the whole, they've decided to essentially do the whole wild card thing all over again, except they're not calling it a wild card this time. They're calling it something slightly different, but it's essentially the same thing where people from Raw and SmackDown can, be invited over.
I mean,
And
it makes sense, doesn't it?
yeah, but then they immediately go and ruin it by announcing that it's going to be Baron Corbin. I mean, jeez.
Oh my god, dude! One of these days we have to do that Baron Corbin The Miz podcast.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I think the people need to know why we hate them. Surely it should be obvious why we hate them, but some people just don't get it. One other thing I wanted to touch on really quickly was that they are vacating the Intercontinental Championship.
That's true, yes.
So Sami Zayn is now, because he hasn't been around recently since WrestleMania because of the whole virus thing, and understandably so.
Yeah.
They felt like they had to keep business going, which is what they have been doing anyway. It's been a month since WrestleMania.
Yeah.
It's understandable that they would vacate the Intercontinental Championship and try to make a new champion. And I feel like this is one of those, built-in storylines, much like the Cruiserweight Championship. I feel like they're both like built in. Obviously, what's going to happen is there's going to be an interim champion, and then the old champion is going to come back and say, "I'm the real champion," a la Scott Hall or Razor Ramon, and then they're going to have some kind of match to determine who is the real champion.
But they can't really do that for both the IC and the Cruiserweight titles.
I felt like that's the angle they were going with the Cruiserweight Championship.
Yeah, for sure.
It just is circumstance that they have to do it, or they probably won't do it with the Intercontinental Championship. They'll just strip Sami Zayn of it, and that'll be the end of it. Given the way they've treated Sami Zayn in the past, they will probably just strip him of the championship and just say tough luck. That's the end of it for you, buddy.
I mean, it is kind of bullshit that they're doing that anyway, considering how many years has Brock Lesnar held like the world title or the universal title and just shown up like once every 3 months or whatever?
Yes. I mean, while I do agree with you there, it's not quite the same deal. Like I don't want to have to admit this, but Sami Zayn is no Brock Lesnar.
What?
I'm sorry to say it, but like, you know what I mean when it comes to like draw power or like angles they're trying to work.
No, yeah.
It's a different scenario. And given that Sami Zayn hasn't really been on TV in the last month to kind of explain himself, at least Paul Heyman was able to be on TV to represent Brock Lesnar.
Yeah.
Storylines could be continued. Things could happen without Brock Lesnar directly being there. It is a different situation. And I know that people want to complain about Brock Lesnar. And God, I want to complain about Brock Lesnar too. You and me have both bitched about this plenty of times. The whole Brock Lesnar thing. But I'm like, in this scenario, I think, I feel like since WrestleMania, since this whole thing happened, we have to take a lot of wrestling with a pinch of salt. We have to put up with Money in the Bank matches that don't make any sense. And we have to put up with stuff like this with a pinch of salt because they're doing their best to entertain us. And it might not always be entertaining, but at least they're trying stuff,
Yeah.
So, while I don't necessarily agree with it, I am also not as pissed off about it as some other people are. Because I'm like, it makes sense. You want your Intercontinental Championship to be around. It's still important. It's not like it's really not like the United States Championship that everybody has forgotten about.
Well, what they could have done is at least because Sami Zayn's aligned with Nakamura and Cesaro, who are both still active and competing. So you could have just had them like defending the title for him or something.
Yes, that's the kind of angle I would have went with. Something like, have Nakamura or Cesaro defend the championship, and then whenever Sami Zayn does come back, they have a feud over who the real champion is. Like that kind of thing is built in. But, what do we know?
Yeah. Apparently nothing.
Clearly nothing, man. Is there anything else you want to say before we wrap this up?
No.
Asuka is amazing.
Well, it goes without saying, clearly. I mean, we've already listed how many titles and events she's won, so...
It's true. She's a Grand Slam champion. She's the best ever.
Yep.
Okay, cool. So, let's wrap this one up right now. Money in the Bank was weird. The match itself was stupid, but Asuka won, so everything is right with the world. Thanks for listening, guys. We will see you in the next episode where we'll talk about something else that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And we'll see you then. So thanks for listening, guys.